Okay, so I'm skipping an intro to this, and I'm just going to explain what I've done here. So I've cut a piece of fabric that's just slightly bigger than 5 by 7. I measured 5 by 7 on the back of it and then just cut it a little bit bigger. I've also then interfaced it with my extra heavy iron-on non-woven interfacing. If you shop at Spotlight, it is called Formfuse 1600. You can also just use a medium iron-on. I would actually probably recommend it for this smaller size, as it was a little bit stiff to turn through. I mean, it does give it a nice stiffness, but it is also a bit difficult. So what's stitching now is the placement stitch for the vinyl. However, I cheat and I actually just stick a piece of vinyl that covers the whole thing over the top of it. And then I'm going to cut out the bits. So as you can see here, I'm holding it down with my hand because I don't want it to lift and curl under my presser foot, because it's more likely to catch and then tear and break a needle and just do all kinds of bad things. So I kept my hand well and truly out of the way, but I did help it stay down so it wasn't going to lift. Okay, so now that that's all stitched with the placement stitch, I'm going to take some scissors and chop away the excess. So you want to try and get as close as you can to those stitches. I was using scissors there, but I've also heard you can use snips, so I thought I'd give it a go in this video. It was a lot more difficult. I found that the snips didn't really want to cut the vinyl. Might be better for fabric. And then I've also heard that you can use a craft knife, but this was a total flop, so I would highly not recommend doing that. These are my $4 scissors from Bunnings. They are to take cuttings from trees and things. So they're very, very sharp, but very, very cheap. And they've also got like a smaller scissors, so they're just easy to cut. So the last bit of this video, I'm not going to run the whole thing because it takes like 42 minutes to stitch out, I think. And this is running at double time, but I just thought I'd show you. So it's now going to go along the edge of the vinyl, and it's going to do a satin stitch to hide all the raw edges. So if you wanted to do this section in a fabric instead of a vinyl, you totally can, because all the raw edges will actually be hidden. But if you're going to use white, you might want to use 2 layers so that it's not see-through, or a really thicker white. Another thing that I would recommend is using a ballpoint needle for vinyl. And so I use like a ballpoint size 80, and you just get them from Spotlight. The other thing I've done is I've slowed down my machine to maximum of 600 stitches per minute. Okay, so I've now finished the embroidery on the front and the back, and I did the cheats way to both. And I've got my 2 zippers. So this is my outer zipper, and then I thought I'd go a different color for the inside, and I've already put my zipper pulls on. So the shorter ones for the inside, the larger ones for the outside. So I'm gonna start with my zipper tabs on the end. So I'm using vinyl so that I don't have to double fold them. And then the easiest way to do this if you're new to them is just grab a little bit of double-sided tape, sit it in the middle of both of them, and you have to make sure that you put your zipper pull on before we attach both of these, or it's not going to work. You have to unpick it. And then you have to cut another piece of vinyl, because once you puncture the holes, you can't unpuncture them. All right, so we're going to peel off the backing if it wants to come. Okay, there we go. And so then I'm just going to hold it and bend it so it's in half in my hand, but with a gap like this. And I'm just going to slot the zipper and push it all the way up to the end and then bend it over. So that's being held by that little bit of tape. So we don't want to leave it too long. And then we're just going to come along, and I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge, this side of the edge of the vinyl. So 2 stitches forward and then back, and then stitch over and do the same thing. Now normally I would chain stitch this and do it all at once, but not this time. Just in case you're super new to bag making or the sewing part. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing again. So I'm gonna hold it so it's pretty much perfectly in half, and then just slot this in and push it all the way up to the edge and then squish it. If you're worried it's gonna move, you can put 2 strips of double-sided tape. I've also moved my bin for anyone that's confused why I'm throwing things that way. It's not a permanent move, it's just a thing. All right, so that is now my top zip. Pop that aside, we're not up to that now. So now we're gonna do our interior zip. So what I did was I have just cut 3 of the outside pieces in the lining fabric. And then I folded this over. I actually did this on camera, but then I had some interruptions. So I've unpicked it and we're starting again. Fold it in half, and then I've drawn my zipper box onto so 1/2 inch from the top, and then I've drawn my zipper box on. So now I'm gonna open it up, and the side I didn't draw on is gonna go towards the top. And then I'm going to try and line this up over the holes I already have done, like that. You don't want it to touch the bottom though. So this is the main thing with the zipper pocket. We don't want it to touch the bottom because then it'll get caught up in the seam. So I'm just going to hand crank 2 of those and then go back through the original holes. Needle down, foot up. I've got a knee lift, so I'm doing this with my knee. Domestics have obviously got it here or at the side here. Needle down, pivot. Never try and pivot with your needle up. You'll lose your position and your stitches will look wonky. Now let's hope that that worked all gloriously well. It has. Wonderful. All right. So now that that's on, we're going to grab some scissors. For those that are about to ask, these are Class A dressmaking scissors in the knife edge, not the serrated edge. I do really like these scissors actually. So when I get about 1/2 inch from the edge, I'm just going to do what's called triangling out the corners. So I'm literally just making little triangles. I'm going to push all of that pocket through the hole, so it's now out the back. And if you were going to do like a white vinyl accent over the top of this, which would look really cute and match in with the front, now's your time. So I'm just going to finger press that down. You can also iron it if you'd like. And then I'm going to take my zip, and I always like my zips to close to the left. So that's the way I'm going to sit it on my bench. And then I'm just going to take all of this and place it over the top, like so. And now I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around the edge. This would also look really fun in a contrasting white stitch, or alternatively, I could have done a white zip to match the outside. So when I get close to the zipper pull, I'm going to make sure my needle's down and just zip it back to where I've already stitched, whether that is open or closed for you. Needle down, pivot, needle down, pivot, needle down, zip it up so it's out of my way. And then back stitch when you get back to the start. Trim your tails because we don't want them hanging around. And so then we're just going to fold your pocket piece down, and we're just going to stitch the 2 sides. Oops. I was not holding that tight enough and it come unthreaded. Got to give me a break. It's like 9:30 at night. All right, there we go. So we're just going to stitch down the side. Make sure that we backstitch at both the start and the finish, like that. Pull it out. Then we're going to do the other side. So you can start from the top or the bottom. I always like to keep as much of the fabric out from my throat space as possible. Not that this is at all big, but it's a habit that I got into. It's a good habit, actually. Not trimming my tails is a bad habit. Okay, done. So now we're just up to construction. So we're going to take our zipper, and I'm going to start with this pocket because I want my zips to go in the same direction. And then you can either baste that down or you can just use some clips. I'm going to use clips. Like so. And then I'm going to take my back piece and put that on top. Excuse me a minute, my child's out of bed. I'm back. Not that it was very long for you guys, but anyway. Alright, so we have clipped it together. So we've got lining right sides up, zipper right sides up, the back piece right sides down. And then we're just going to stitch with a joining stitch length. I'm going to back stitch at the start because we always back stitch. And then stitch along. And then we're going to get to here and I'm going to move the zipper pull past where we're sewing. So that it's now up here out of my way. And I won't accidentally stitch it and break a needle, because that's not ideal either. Especially this time of night. I don't want to play that game. Alright, so then I'm going to spin it around while it's still connected and fold over just the top piece like this, and then top stitch with a longer stitch length. So for me is 3 3/4, but whatever decorative stitch length you like. And I mean, you can do it in the same stitch length if you prefer. And again, we want to hold our zipper pull out of the way. Done. So now we're going to grab our other piece and do lining right sides up, zipper right sides up, clip it together. As many or as few clips as you like. The more clips you use, the more sturdy it becomes. Then we're going to take our front piece and put it right sides down. And by doing it this way, this is ensuring that the front of the bus, van, whatever, is going to line up with the zip being on the left hand side. Alright. Back to a joining stitch. Do a couple of stitch forwards, couple of stitch back. If you've never watched one of my videos, please note you do not need to do 3 inches of back stitching. You only need about 3 stitches. Anything more than that, and it's not doing anything but making it messy. Alright, back up to your decorative stitch length, and then we're just going to fold over the top, and then we're going to stitch it. The more practice you are, the faster you can go. Sorry about that. Hubby came in to show me a cool new knife he made. Because if you've never watched one of my videos, my husband forges knives in our backyard. It's actually pretty cool. It's a cheese knife made out of a horseshoe. A new one, not one that we found on the ground. Alright. So now we want to make sure that these seams and the bust bits match up. That's pretty important. It's designed to match up, so you want to make sure that you clip it so it matches up. So So I'm just going to clip with as many clips as I feel comfortable with, and then I'm going to switch to the other side, clip the other side, and then I will come back and do the bottom. Now with your zipper tab, what you want to do is you want to bend it so it's going to be one way or the other, but more so out of the way. And then clip that too. And then just as many clips as makes you happy. There's no right or wrong amount of clips, so don't ever think that there is. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just stitch a little bit here and then down and around and leave the bottom open to turn the bag through because it's going to be quicker there, and then I can just seal that up through my zipper pocket. Because my zipper pocket is still quite small. So back to adjoining stitch length. We're going to do a couple forward, a couple back, needle down, pivot, now this is the bit that's going to get tricky because we're getting close to the zipper pull. Not the zipper pull, the zipper tab. So if you're struggling, you can either manually crank it like this or put your zipper foot on your machine, because then you can get nice and close to it. And needle down. Also clean up your clips as you go. That's why I keep my bowl handy, or they tend to get in my way. Slow and steady past the zipper tab part. It's only difficult because it's bulky and I'm trying to run over it with my foot. So the main reason we do this little bit at the side here is because it's going to be a lot easier to just do a straight line rather than and the corners. So take your scissors, and I'm just going to clip off some of the excess in the corners so that we get a nice turn. We want nice sharp edges. And so now you should just be able to grab it, and I just use my thumbs to push it through. Now again, leaving the bottom of the bag open is always the easiest way to get your bag through because it allows for the most space. Now the reason mine's a bit tricky is because I interfaced everything, everywhere. Oh, and I've missed a bit. So I haven't caught, just here, I haven't caught the vinyl. So I'm just gonna push it back inside out. And just come back and veer in a little bit more so that I catch the vinyl in there. Then I'm just going to peer in and check. I missed. It's a little bit higher up, which is fine. This is only happening because I didn't quite leave my white applique vinyl big enough. These things happen. I'm not super worried. Also, if I wanted to, I could peel away my tearaway backing on the inside part of this to make it a little bit softer, but I kind of like that it's firm. But if you're struggling to turn it through, definitely pick it off because it's less layers. You could also put a less dramatic interfacing on. I put an extra heavy iron-on non-woven, which is what I use on the outside of handbags, because I like my stuff to be nice and firm. But you could just use a medium woven iron-on because the vinyl's there. It's still going to be pretty firm anyway. Okay. So now, I've got most of it turned in the right way. So this is my flute cleaner. I love it. I actually use it to push out my corners. It pushes them out really, really well without stabbing through my stitching. I know a lot of people use chopsticks. I did try that once just because everybody recommended it. So I did it and I put my chopstick straight through my corner seam. So after all that turning, I then had to turn around and turn it back again. All right, so I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to push out this edge so that my zipper tab comes fully out, and same to the other side, otherwise it looks a bit dodgy in the corner. So I'm not actually pushing the zipper tab, I'm pushing the seam. All right, and so now I'm going to take that lining base and pull it through the inside zipper pocket, and so I can stitch it shut. Now, if you're a beginner, chuck some clips or pins along there, but if you're an intermediate sewer, you should just be able to stitch this. It's just a short straight line. And then chop off your tails, and then push that back into the bag like so. And then I'm just going to take the pocket lining and turn under the raw edge just a little bit. It's about 1/4 of an inch. And then you take some Wonder Clips and you clip it down shut like so. I actually don't need to do this, but I'm just showing you how to do it. So you just push it in. So I put my fingers at the edges and then pull tight, and that lines everything up for you. And then you can just go along and add your clips. You could also use pins for this. And then we're just going to stitch as close to that edge as we can without running off the edge. So we're going to do a couple of back stitches in the corner, and then stitch across and back stitch again. Chop off your tail, push it all in, and this is like the cutest pouch ever. I don't really know what you're going to put in that tiny little pouch. You can put like your bus money. If you're a woman and you're making it for a woman, you could probably put some sanitary items in there. Super, super cute. Sorry, I'm hiding all the cool bits. All right, so now, just because I can, I'm also going to make a wristlet strap. So what I've done is I've cut this 2 inches wide for my 1 inch swivel lobster claw strap connector thing. And then I actually cut this 1.5 inches wide. I've folded each side into the center to make that 3/4 of an inch thick. Then we're going to take some double-sided tape and stick it down the center. Now, if you're not good with centers, draw a line first. When I first started doing it, I drew a line. I have since upgraded to not drawing a line because I can eyeball it. Repetition helps. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold each side into the center. And again, if you're new to this, draw a line. It's on vinyl, so you can draw it in pen and you won't see it. Even on the white vinyl, it's thick enough that you won't see through it. Well, this one is anyway. Depending, of course, on when you get your vinyl. Maybe it's really thin, in which case, I don't know, use a grey lead. So I'm going to put this up to a decorative stitch length because I don't want to overstab my vinyl. And then I've also folded over one edge, just under like 1/4 inch, so that we've got a nice smooth edge. So this edge is actually going to be the edge that's seen, and then the other end we're going to tuck up, so you're not going to see it. So you can start at this end, or in actual fact, you could probably start at the opposite end that's not sealed, because you're not going to see it. So that's a good place to put your back stitching, now that I think about that. And then I'm just going to center it so that there's a small amount of the vinyl showing on each side. And again, you can either clip this down or you could stick a piece of double-sided tape on top and then stick them both together. Whatever you are more comfortable doing. I like doing it this way, so I'll be doing it this way. So I'm just stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. I'm not really worried about the vinyl or how far away I am, so long as my piece of fabric is centered. That's what we care about more. And then backstitch. Chop off your tails. And so then, with the vinyl touching the flat bit, our nice end, we're going to thread through and bend over. And then we're just going to take this end and shove it up under there, like so. And this is your wristlet strap. Now, you can rivet it or you can stitch it. I highly recommend riveting it. I will be riveting it. If you're going to stitch it, that's like 6 layers of vinyl. So just make sure that your machine is going to be able to do that. This is my glorious hole punch. So I'm going to pop this under. Put some pressure and it should puncture all of my layers, which it did lovely. Then I'm going to grab my rivet set. And the other thing I forgot to grab was my rivet. I almost remembered everything for a video. Look at me go. Alright, so we push the rivet through and sit the cap on and then pop it under and push, and that just squishes it and sets it. And so I've deliberately chosen a zip that I can attach that to, and so now I know my zipper looks crooked, but it's not. It's just because the vinyl's kind of pulling from all directions. There we go. You've now got a wristlet strap. Super cute. I actually plan on giving this to a 5-year-old. She's going to love it. Her favorite color is pink. And I'm going to make the larger size for a 10-year-old to use as a pencil case. And I think I'm going to do that one in green. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I do really like this. I think it's adorable. As you can see, mine needs a bit of a press. So to press this, I'll put it in the heat press, but I'm going to put a piece of fabric over the top so that I don't burn my vinyl. But yeah, all right guys, till next time.